So with The Conjuring 2 now officially out in theaters, today guys, myself and Geekless TV are going to be making the comparisons, comparing both The Conjuring 1 and The Conjuring 2. So, before we begin guys, this video will contain loads of spoilers, so in case you guys haven't seen The Conjuring 2, go on ahead and check it out before watching this video, because today we're going to be making some, predictions and comparing certain things that we saw between The Conjuring 1 and The Conjuring 2 in terms of the story, the overall presentation, the characters. So I wanted to ask you today, Mr. Geeklist, and again guys, this is your final warning for spoilers. What are your overall thoughts? Because I know you saw The Conjuring 2, and I know you told me off camera that you love the film. You do have the first edition of the movie on Blu-ray, and you love it. I love The Conjuring as well. I feel as if both movies were very, very good, but at the very end, certain people would say, oh, I loved the second one more than the first one, and some people would say, well, I like the first one more than the second one. So I wanted to ask you, before we get into anything else, comparing both movies, right, which movie would you say, from your personal standpoint, did you like the most between The Conjuring 1 and The Conjuring 2, like from an overall general standpoint?
Probably 1.
Why is that?
Because when I first saw 1, I kind of went through this phase where I was kind of done with watching, the whole Paranormal Activity type stuff. We all were. So I kind of was watching, I went out and started buying a whole bunch of the older Friday the 13th, and I was watching that stuff and downloading a lot of the older stuff. So I was watching all of that, and then it's I just kind of started watching all these older movies, and then I went to go see The Conjuring in theaters with my sister, and then I was blown away, man. The movie, it just wasn't a horror movie, and I kind of stress this a lot. It just wasn't a horror movie. It was an overall good film. It was a good movie that I feel even if you're not a fan of horror, you can sit down, watch this, appreciate the acting, appreciate the story, appreciate the tone of the film, and it's just an amazing movie. You know what I mean? That's how I felt with part 2. Going in and watching this one, I kind of felt the acting was good, the tone was good. I just felt like the story was not as strong as the first one. I'm not sure if you want me to explain that right now or if you want to go into that later.
No, that's fine. I mean, but you're saying overall the story was more executed.
I just think overall, yeah, the first one was just a better film in my opinion, as far as all aspects.
Honestly, I'm going to have to agree with you to a certain extent, because I felt as if there was something about the first movie. There was something about The Conjuring 1 that just had this very creepy tone to it. I don't know if it's the overall backstory of the witch on the farm. I don't know if it has to do with the figure of Bathsheba. It could be the fact that they incorporated the whole clapping game. There was certain things in The Conjuring 1 that was definitely freaky, and there was something about the first movie that just kind of left you at awe. The second one was great as well, but the second one felt more I guess you could say involving family, or just symbolizing marriage and the unity of a couple, because we get to see Ed and Lorraine Warren working together more in the second film, combating this demon and stuff, and having to just take their own separate routes, ultimately to just lead back into one, because we saw towards the end of the Conjuring 2 how it all came together with them being separated, and then they finally came together and stuff, whereas opposed to The Conjuring 1, they were still together even while they were performing the exorcism on Bathsheba, and ultimately enough, it was still a much different tone setting, I guess, for the first one. But now let's compare demonic figures here. Which figure would you say kind of creeped you out more? Was it Bathsheba, or was it Valak, the demonic nun?
Probably Valak. When I first, I'm gonna call her, right? Or I'll just call it the demon.
Her, whatever it is. It was downright ungodly, bro.
When I first saw it, man, it creeped me the fuck out. I was not expecting it. It really just kind of excuse me, the overall design, it just really creeped me out. The witch was cool and all, and I do appreciate the design of it, but I just wasn't that scared of it. And Valak, man, just there, I can't remember if I had a nightmare after I watched it or not. I know I had a really weird dream. I can't remember if it was after that or not, but it was kind of weird because I kind of pictured that face a few times after I've watched the movie, and I believe maybe it's because I saw it on social media, I'm not too sure, but I just remember seeing that face a lot. You know what I mean? That face kind of stuck with me.
No,
so
definitely.
It kind of freaked me out in a sense. So
the nun had something about her that really kind of stuck out. But then again, I think towards the end of The Conjuring 1, once Bathsheba was revealed and stuff, like, she looked horrifying, like the way her face was all mutilated and stuff, and like the way she had like that demonic growl. It was certainly very, very unsettling. And the way we get to see, you know, the witch kind of take the mom hostage and not letting her leave the house, and if she did leave the house, she would kill her and stuff. It was a pretty ritualistic kind of movie. It was very, very dark and gloomy. And the second one was also dark and gloomy, but again, the second one focused more on the aspect of it being a hoax, because that was the whole purpose of why Ed and Lorraine Warren even went, because they needed proof to find out whether or not this was real.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think The Nun was definitely scary as hell. I mean, especially the part where we see Lorraine in the room and we see like the shadow walking towards the paint. That was like the tone to it was so like eerie, because like we see like this eerie music playing in the background, and the nun is slowly walking towards the portrait. And finally, once it grabbed onto the paint thing and it just charged at her, I was like, that was brilliant. But also, what was really cool about The Conjuring 1 was when the little girls were being dragged out the bed, and then the one little girl was like crying, and her sister was like, "What's wrong?" And she pointed into the darkness next to the door, and she kept telling her sister, "It's watching us, it's laughing, it's gonna kill us and stuff." And that was really creepy, because like the little girl went into the darkness, and she said, "There's nobody here," but then like she felt like breathing on her neck and stuff. It was insane. And of course, like creepy. The overall setting of The Conjuring 1 was this witch having to curse the land and stuff, but in The Conjuring 2, it was more or less this demonic figure wanting to take Ed's life ultimately, because that was the message from the beginning of the movie, to where we saw Lorraine asking, you know, "What do you want?" and then finally it pointed at Ed. So, but you know, the question also remains, like, why did it take possess of this little girl? We don't know. But overall, like the storytelling, like which movie would you say had better storytelling between the first one and the second one? Because like overall, like the narration was perfect. I think the overall setting for each film was executed very well, because here we had this one little small house, which was in the second film, and in the first film we had like this massive big ass house with a basement and stuff. So which movie do you think had a better story from beginning to end here?
That's a hard question for me to answer, bro, because it's not like The Conjuring 2 had a bad story. It's just I guess this is a way to sum it up. Conjuring 2, great horror movie. Conjuring 1, an overall great movie. I think that would be what I would sum it up. I think it just falls short in some aspects, and I think it's like what you just mentioned earlier. Like, we don't really know too much why it wanted to take over that little girl. Like, we don't know why it went all the way into London. We don't know, like, I mean, obviously it took that ghost, it held that ghost hostage, you know? It was a demon holding a ghost hostage, basically, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And people might say, well, what are you guys talking about, like the demon going all the way to London? Well, Lorraine was having premonitions and visions of this demon back in America, while there was an actual haunting in London. So is it a coincidence? I wouldn't say so, because she had the same vision in her home while she was in America at the same exact time where, you know, that
her daughter saw that, like, bro. Remember in the movie, her daughter saw it, bro. Her daughter was like, "What the hell is that?" And she was like, it was the nun just walking past the hall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So it was terrifying. So we don't really know as to like what really happened or why. And the question that's on my mind is like, what happened to the ghost, to the elderly ghost? Because I mean, towards the end of the film, like that was just it. Like they just kind of kiboshed him, and that was that. They never really said if like he made it to the other side or if like his spirit's at ease. I think the scary part about The Conjuring 2 was towards the end of the movie when they actually told the story of the mother dying in that exact same chair in 2003. Like when like the way they structured that and the way they panned in with the cameras and stuff, it was really scary, because I was like, whoa, like I was like, really? But what about like in terms of like performance? Which movie would you say had like better performances from the actors and actresses here? Was it the first one or the second one?
Overall, the first one, but the second one, Ed and Lorraine, I can't remember their names, for God's sakes, the actors, but they were great. I mean, they work great together on screen. I love seeing them, you know what I mean? I love seeing that actor in general. He's on the Insidious.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson and
yes,
Vera.
Patrick Wilson.
I forget her last name, but it's Vera.
I love seeing them work together. They're great, and I believe they had a lot of good chemistry in the second one, even more so than the first one. And the second one had a cooler part to their like I guess we want to call their connection. Like, we got to see them like stressing out over their job. We got to see them stressing out of people constantly calling them like liars, and that this is one big hoax. And we got to see her stressing out over the many times that they go and help people, and how it's taking a toll on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought that was very cool. It added a more like different element to it, and I like to see that. You know what I mean? So it was really cool. But I'll go ahead and say that overall, probably better performances. Conjuring 2, just because Ed and Lorraine, they work good together. Patrick Wilson and Ever, they work good together.
Now, what I noticed here about the first and second movie was, in the first movie, they told a story about the farmhouse witch, Bathsheba, and they also had little, subplots and sub-stories of Annabelle. And in The Conjuring 2, we had the overall story of the Enfield poltergeist, and we had little sub-stories of the Amityville horror incident. So, both movies, what I picked up on was, they both told like a main story and somewhat of a little sub story, because towards the end of the first one we get to see the whole shtick with Annabelle and her being put away, and then in the second movie during the early portion we get to see the incident with the Amityville and kind of like one of the main reasons why she wanted to stop and stuff. But I don't know if you caught this on towards the very end. Did you see the way they put like that little Crooked Man box next to that little box, that musical box from the first movie? Because like towards the very end, when Ed went down to the basement, we see Annabelle in the background. We see the music box from the first movie, and then he moved that over and put the Crooked Man right next to it. So, what are you thinking here? Is that foreshadowing a third movie or what?
I mean, they're probably gonna put together the Bullet Club, man. I don't know. Shit. I mean, yeah, I saw that, and you could be right. They could be foreshadowing something, you know what I mean? It was cool that we got to see Annabelle again, you know what I mean? It was cool that we got to see that music box again. So now that he put that Crooked Man thing there, who knows, bro? Who knows?
I really thought towards the end that Annabelle was kind of like going to move her eyes and look at those objects, because those objects have a lot of like meaning behind them. So, and again, people might be wondering, oh yeah, the third movie is going to be Annabelle. It's not actually. Annabelle is getting its own movie. The actual story of the nurses and stuff, because many people are saying, oh, the first movie sucked. Yeah, the first movie sucked because it was a prequel to what really happened with the nurses, in which case that was the real story with the Annabelle situation, because during the early portions of The Conjuring 1, they spoke about the nurses and how the nurses got the doll, and in the actual Annabelle film, those weren't nurses. They were just regular people. So, and towards the end of Annabelle, the movie, we get to see where the mom buys the doll for her daughter, who's a nurse. So, Annabelle 2 is going to be a direct follow-up to Annabelle 1. No correlation to The Conjuring 3 or whatever. What really bothers me is the fact that The Conjuring 3, I believe, if they go ahead and make that, which I do believe they will, ought to be centered around Amityville, because that was supposed to be a case where it took a lot out of Lorraine and Ed. But if they don't do that, they can easily do the Doll of Shadows, or they can go back and try to retell the story from The Haunting in Connecticut, or something else. Maybe they can create like their own version that never happened per se, because it's Hollywood at the end of the day. So you can only go based off of so much. But building off of the first two movies, where would you say personally they can go off and make a third film? Like if you were in charge, right? How exactly would you create a third successful Conjuring film? Would you actually go based off of an incident report to where they investigated a paranormal activity, or would you completely write your own script and write your own story building up to a third movie?
I would probably use the Amityville horror. I would since they already used the part where they're there, you know what I mean? So I think it would be cool for them to, in the third one, go back to the family. We all know the story of the Amityville, so to see what's happening there, and then for them to call Ed and Lorraine and get to the point that we saw in the beginning of part 2, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would be kind of cool. Lead up to that, so I think that would be kind of cool if they did it that way. I don't know, writing your own script and all that, because there's just something cool about when you're in the theaters and it's like completely dark, and it's like that flash photography. They take that pic and that eerie music plays, and it's just based off a true story, or based on a true story. Like, I think that's just like,
because they actually showed pictures of the families and stuff in both films.
So I kind of think that they should stick with that. That should be their theme for these movies. They shouldn't change the script. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Don't change what's good.
Don't fix nothing that's already not broken. I get it. But what about like the overall like reflection? Because a lot of people were saying that The Conjuring 2 felt more like Insidious, whereas opposed to The Conjuring 1 just felt like The Conjuring 1. So what are your thoughts on people that are saying that The Conjuring 2 felt more like Insidious? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because The Conjuring 1 was referenced as an original in a way because it didn't really have to feel like any other movie, whereas opposed to The Conjuring 2 just felt more like, Insidious more than anything else. So, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I can see why. I mean, even I made the joke when, in the beginning of the movie, in the beginning of the film, when Lorraine had popped out, I was like, is she in the further?
Body, yeah.
So, but it's like, it's not too big of a deal. I mean, James Wan directed the Insidious film, so I mean, it's like, really, it's like, I can see it capturing the tone and all that. I kind of get what they mean though, because I believe in both Insidious films they were going after the kids, right? I believe. So it kind of felt like they were going after a kid in this one. So I mean, what do you think? I feel like maybe there was like a little nod there to the whole further thing, maybe, But I mean, other than that, it's going after a kid, it makes logical sense for a demon to go after a kid. They're more vulnerable than an adult. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, what's your opinion on that? Do you think it reminded you of the Insidious films or no?
It did. It reminded me a lot of like Insidious 2 and 3. And I love those films a lot. So it definitely had that Insidious tone. And just looking at The Conjuring, like the first one, again, there was something about the film that just felt really off. And in a good way, actually. So, but for me at least, my final 2 cents would have to be The Conjuring 1 was very, very creepy, and it just gave and it left you with such a weird, like, I guess you could say, like, emotion, because walking out of there, like, we see that music box spinning, and we see Annabelle down there in the basement. But overall, I would have to say that the Conjuring 2 is the better film because it displayed more of a very sadistic tone, because again, as you said, this demon was using the ghost, the spirit, as a conduit to get to the family, which ultimately wanted them to get rid of Ed and Lorraine Warren, because that was the whole plan. That's why the girl was faking, like, throwing things around and stuff, because the demon didn't want them to be there, because if they were there any longer, the demon would have killed the entire family, as the little girl told her sister, because she said, her sister asked her, like, did you fake everything? And she said, yes, I had to fake it because it told me that if I didn't get rid of them, then they would kill all of you. So I just felt as if the second one was a better film. I mean, not by a huge margin, but definitely a better film. And I just hope that James Wan continues and makes a third film. But, like, what are your overall thoughts if you had to break it down and just give your final 2 cents? Like, which movie would you say is better overall?
I guess I'm going to stick to my guns. I think overall the better movie would have to be the first one. I'll say it again. Second one, great horror movie. First one, great movie. I feel like the second one had some ins and outs that I think it could have fixed. And plus, there's that whole thing that everyone's saying that the end was kind of a little over the top. I'm not too sure if you thought that.
Right.
But a lot of people thought the end was too over the top. I mean, the ending of the first one was kind of over the top too, but I believe people were saying that the second one was really like, what? You can't really say the shit like that happened, you know what I mean? But, the first one's probably the better overall movie for me, but I still love The Conjuring 2, and you can bet your ass I'm going to buy that shit when it comes out on Blu-ray.
No, definitely, so am I. Leave your thoughts down below, guys, as to which movie did you guys prefer more. Did you guys like The Conjuring 1 more, or did you guys like The Conjuring 2 more? Comment down below and let us know, guys. Once again, thank you all for watching. If you guys are fans, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. If you guys enjoyed both movies, smash that like button, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Check out MJ and subscribe to him as well down in the description below, guys. Thank you all for watching once again, and we'll be seeing you all in the next video. Take it easy, guys. Peace.